Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we got a special guest, Scotty Nichols, the head baseball coach of the Anson Tigers, the dominating Anson Tigers, is going to join us on the show.
Yeah, I mean, what a season they've had, and just what a job he has done. You're talking about a team that is coming into their series this week against New Home at 25-1-1, and then on a long winning streak coming into the playoffs and through the playoffs so far. And I mean, and he's just a guy that's built up that type of program where you're not necessarily surprised to see them playing in a region semifinal situation or a region championship situation, and that's what we got again this year. So it's gonna be fun to talk to him about this team in particular. Particularly given just the experience this team has. They've got a big senior class that have been part of some really good teams in the past. And this, I think, is the best they've had. I think they've got huge goals for this. This team wants to make it to state, wants to win a state championship. And I think they have that potential. They're showing it so far.
And as much pitching depth as you're going to see from a 2A team.
Yeah. I mean, they've got four guys, I think, that you'd feel confident throwing in starting any playoff game. And they've got three others behind those that I think you'd feel confident throwing in relief in a playoff game. So when you've got 7 pitchers you can throw in a 3-game series at the Class 2A level, there aren't many teams that are going to be able to match that.
You're blessed at the 2A
very
level.
Very much so.
You're doing all right for yourself at the 6A level. You got 7 arms.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. No question.
All right, before we jump into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and with that, let's jump into baseball, softball playoffs before we have Coach Nichols on. Let's start with softball. Now, I wrote a column that ran Monday night. We got a lot of traffic on that thing, too. And I just simply pointed out what really, in my opinion, should be an obvious thing. And a lot of people think, well, that's obvious. Well, you know what? A lot of people don't think it's obvious. And that's why I wrote the column. Hamlin chose to go with a 1-game series against Stanford, which is only logical. You're facing the state champions who have beaten you twice already this year, 10-0, 2 times. It was logical for Hamlin to pick a 1-game series because you have a better shot at beating the state champs once than you do twice. And so it just makes sense to me. But yeah, some people disagreed with that. And so that's why I wrote it. But what's your take on that? I know you're going to agree with me. I know you.
I mean, I think that there are two cases where you're always, I think, going to flip for the 1-gamer. One, if you're a situation like Brownwood was in years ago with Shelby Miller as their ace, you want to go 1 game every week because his chances of winning that game are very, very high. And the other is if you're playing a team that's a heavy favorite. I think it only makes sense to shorten the series, try to beat them in 1 game, try to come up with that one big upset win. And let's be honest. I mean, this Hamlin team's really good. They've proven that the last couple of weeks that they swept a really good Colorado City team, came from behind to beat a good Albany team. Their record is great. I mean, this is a really good Hamlin team. But we saw in district where they lost 10-0 twice to Stanford that this Stanford team is I mean, they're the state favorite for a reason. So I think it only makes sense to condense that series. You have a lot of experience with that team. Try to go out there, play the best game you possibly can, and try to beat them in 1 game. And if you do, you're playing for in the state semifinals the next week. So I think I agree with you. It only makes sense when you're a heavy underdog to try to condense the series and try to come up with that one big upset.
All right. In Class 3A, we've got Homa taking on a Holiday team, and this is not going 1 game. This is going 3. Homa comes in at 34, 30 wins, 4 losses, and 1 tie. Holiday comes in at 32-2. CHS, Homa, has not lost a game in 23 games. They've got 1 tie in there, but they have not lost a ball game in 23 games. Holiday's won 13 straight, and they've won 19 of their last 20. These are 2 monster ball clubs going at it. This should be a great series, and we've got a couple of very good pitchers. Hannah Wells for Homa, only a freshman, but you're talking about, in my opinion, Division I speed already. Addison Lindemann from Holiday, 275 Ks on the year with an ERA of 0.55. Going against Wells. This is going to be a great matchup. This is going to be a great series. There are 4 kids on that that Holiday team that are batting over 500. So, and then we know that the Homa's lineup's loaded. Wells led the area in home runs with 17. They got a number of kids that are batting over 400. This should be a great series with a trip to state on the line.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great series, and I think the interesting thing is you got a holiday team that's been there before. They're the defending region champion against a Kahoma team that's super young, and this is a new experience for them. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge is just how they handle that, being in an environment they haven't been in yet. But I do think they're going to benefit the last two rounds. I mean, they really kind of waltzed through their district and then beat up on Wall in the Vitus round, but the last and then Henrietta in the area round as well. Those were all kind of blowout wins. But the last two rounds, they played two really good teams in Merkel and in Bushland, and they've won some really competitive games. I mean, all of these games have been decided by 3 runs or less the last 2 weeks, and they've come out on top of all of them. Like you said, they haven't lost in a long, long time, but they've won some really close, tight games, which I think is good experience for them going into a holiday series where these games, if you're going to win them, they're going to be close, probably low-scoring games. So I think Kahoma comes in here playing really well, has experience and success in close, tight games. And I think they're going to need that because this holiday team is really, really good.
And we would be remiss if we did not congratulate the Hermleigh Lady Cardinals on earning a trip to state. They did get past Eula, swept that series 2 games to none, and they're going to state. They're taking this week off, and then they'll join everybody down in Austin next week. I'm guessing we might have 2 or 3 teams down there, Dan.
Yeah, it's looking like it. But I got to see the game 2 of the clincher of that Hermleigh Eula series. The first game was really tight, a great game, 1-run game that Hermleigh won late, and then the second game was kind of tight early as a 3-1 game, and then Hermleigh had a big inning that kind of got him going. That was really keyed by a grand slam by a freshman. Haley Minton had a huge hit in that game. Turned a 3 or 4 run game into a 7 or 8 run game. And that was really the story. Eula made one last push at it because this Eula team is that type of team. They're not going to go down easy, but Hermleigh, just a remarkable story. This Hermleigh team has been really fun. That's another team with a lot of young girls. They've only got 2 seniors on that team. Their pitcher, Summer Smith, really good, is just a sophomore. They've got a lot of good young players on that team too. This is one both they and Eula are both very young. They could be running that region for a while. We could get some really nice, fun battles out of those two going forward. But congratulations to Hermleigh on winning this one. That's a huge deal for them to get to finish their season at the state tournament.
I'm sure you also want to comment on the Wiley Lady Bulldogs we had to say goodbye to last week. You attended that series. They were swept by just a powerhouse ball club from Aledo. No shame in that. What a great season again for Wiley.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you hit on the story of that series was that Aledo, I think Aledo might be the best team in the state at the Class 5A level. That is a very, very good team. They got 3 good pitchers. Their lineup is just dangerous up and down with girls that can put it out of the park. If you're not careful, they're going to be running around the bases all day long. And that's kind of what happened in Wiley's first game. They got out to a really rough start, lost 14-2 in 5 innings in game 1, and then came out in game 2 and played a really good game. They ended up losing 7-3, but it was a very tight game for most of it. It was a 2-run game going into the 5th or 6th inning, and then Aledo kind of put the finishing touches on it. But just a great season for a Wiley team that had only 1 senior on their roster and a lot of juniors, a big junior class that's going to be super instrumental in what they do next year. And I would not be at all surprised to see Wiley and Aledo playing in a similar situation next year. These are 2 very good teams. They're going to have a chance to do really well in that region.
All right. Before we touch on baseball, we want to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year, also for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Legs 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That is Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a call at 325-669-5153 or go to his website at philhillproperties.com. All right, it's time to talk baseball, Mr. Youngblood, sir. We'll start off at the 1A level, and we got an interesting story developing at the 1A level. We've seen one really good Ira team under Toby Goodwin after another and they're trying to go to state. They're playing for a regional championship, but the one roadblock in Toby's way right now is his own son, Tyler. Ira's facing Nazareth, and Tyler's coaching them.
Yeah, and this is one of those that's going to make both of us feel old because we remember when Tyler was playing. So, but what a crazy matchup. You've got an undefeated Ira team. They're 21-0-1, have not lost a game all year, against an undefeated Nazareth team, 18-0. And fortunately, we're going to get to see a 3-game series out of those two, a best of 3 series out of those two, which I think when you've got teams that good, even at the 1A level, you want to see a series. So I think this is going to be a really good series and a really fun deal with that story that you said, where you got father and son coaching against each other. And, both of them would love to add that to their resume and to have that to talk about, over the phone together. But, a huge series, and this Ira team has been, it's just special. And you look at the scores this year, they've beaten up on some really good teams. Last week is a perfect example in the one game where they beat Westbrook 22-0. That's a solid Westbrook team. Before that, they beat Cross Plains 10-0. These are good quality teams that they're just running off the field. And I think the story of their playoff run so far, when you look, is that pitching staff. They are not allowing runs, period. They have not allowed a run in the playoffs. It tells you how good they are on the mound, which at the 1A, when you've got that kind of pitching and that kind of depth, you've got a chance. Of course, you're going to face something similar from Nazareth this week, but it's going to be a really fun series, I think.
All right, jumping up to Class 2A. Dan, we've still got 2 ball clubs alive. We got the Anson Tigers still alive. We got the Albany Lions still alive. Anson will take on New Home in one side of the bracket, and that starts on Friday at noon at Lubbock Christian University. It will shift to Abilene Christian on Saturday. Again, that's a noon starting time on Saturday. Game 3, if needed, 30 minutes after that. Albany will be taking on Clarendon. That's at Lubbock Christian University. That will be at 7 p.m. Thursday for game 1, and it will remain at Lubbock Christian throughout the duration of that series. Game 2 will be at 2 p.m. Friday, and then, of course, game 3, if needed, 30 minutes after that, all at Lubbock Christian. I got a chance to see Albany firsthand last week. You saw Anson last week. These are 2 good ball clubs. I would not be surprised to see them meet for a regional title, and that would be awesome for the big country if we could get that to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a distinct possibility. Both have tough matchups this week. You mentioned New Home at 29-2 against Anson. That's going to be a really big time series, and we'll get to talk to Coach Nichols about that in a little bit. And then Albany's got Clarendon, a 22-6 Clarendon team. So both these teams are going to have tests, but it would be pretty cool if we could get those 2 playing for the region title, for a shot to go to state. That would be a pretty big story in this area. And both those teams are certainly capable. I've seen both of them twice. I saw Anson in both the bi-district round and the area round, and I saw Albany, I guess, in those same 2 rounds. So I've seen both teams. Both teams have really good pitching. Both teams are really solid up and down the lineup. Anson got the better of Albany twice in district, and so I think they're the favorite if those two do play. But Albany can certainly get past this Clarendon team if they play well, and it'll be fun to see if we can get that matchup. It'd be a pretty big deal.
Well, and Albany's got enough pitching depth to do well in a series as well. And we know that Anson's got a ton of pitching depth, that Albany has enough arms to go a 3-game series and do well in it, which is really, really important, especially when you're facing a team like Anson. So if you're going to get through Anson, it's likely going to be 3 games. So as well as Anson's playing.
And I think with Anson, a big deal too. I think this New Home series is going to be really, really tough. This is a really good team.
Yes.
But the thing that I think is really good for Anson is they come into this game. They've had a lot of lopsided outcomes, particularly in the playoffs and in district. But they come into this game off a 2-1 win over Hamilton, where they were really pressed. That game could have gone either way. They really had to lean on that pitching depth we talk about, where they had to lean on, have the opportunity to kind of mix and match to get through that and kind of manufacture a couple of runs off a good Hamilton pitcher. So I think that was a big deal for them to have that type of game going into this type of series, because this is another one where you're probably going to get close games. So I think it's important to have some success in those situations. And Anson certainly did that against Hamilton, a big 2-1 win in a 1-game playoff, which I think that bodes well for them as well, because if you get to the state tournament, you're playing 1-gamers. You're not playing series anymore. So they've got experience in that. And if they can get past New Home, they're playing for a chance to go to state, which I know is their ultimate goal. So that's a good experience for them, and I think a really good test for them to pass.
All right, we're going to jump up to Class 3A now, where our lone team in the Big Country Preps coverage area that is still alive is the Brock Eagles. And I saw them mid-season. I saw them in mid-season form. I saw them play against a good early ball club, and Brock was looking good then. You've seen them more recently, and they are devastating now. They are playing as well as we've seen them play ever, really,
Yeah.
at this stage.
No, they're playing unbelievably well. I've seen them each of the last 2 weeks, and last week in particular, they were playing a holiday team, a really, really good holiday team. This was, I think, a top 5 probably in 3A holiday team, and Brock run ruled them twice. And it wasn't because Holiday was a bad team or played poorly. It's because Brock just is playing at another level right now. They've kind of hit a stride. They've pitched well all year long. They're another team with just an enormous amount of pitching depth. They've got 5 or 6 kids they can throw out there, all of which can dominate a game. But I think the thing that's really set them apart the last 2 weeks in particular, when you look at that series they had against Homa a couple of weeks ago or 2 weeks ago in the game in the second game in particular where they run ruled them, they're starting to get that timely hitting and starting to put together, hit on top of hit on top of hit. And they're starting to put together really big innings, which is putting games away, putting good teams away. And that's what they did against Brock. And they're going to get a chance against a really good Idalou team this week, 22-5 Idalou team. But just having seen what they did to Holiday, I'd be very surprised if there's a team in this region that can take them out. Just the way they're playing, it's going to be very tough. If they do win this one, they'll advance obviously to the region championship where they could face the Bowie team that knocked out Wall, which is kind of interesting. Bowie, we talked about early. I was really high on early. You mentioned early playing Brock and playing them early in the season. And I was really high on early. And I know a lot of people were disappointed when early lost to Bowie in the first round, and Bowie's still playing. They knocked out Wall last week. This is a Bowie team that was really highly regarded before the season started, a top 10 team in class 3A,
Yes.
Finished third in a tough district behind Holiday among the on that group. And then they're still playing. They beat a Wall team in 3 games and just really outlasted them, outplayed them. So that Bowie team is very solid, and it turns out early was very good. They took them to 3 games, but this Bowie team is just hit it straight at the right time. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this region plays out. But if there's a team in this region that can beat Brock, I'd like to see him just based on the way that Brock's playing right now.
Jumping up to Class 4A, the good news is we've got 2 Big Country Preps coverage area teams still alive. The bad news is they have to play each other. Snyder is going to be taking on Stephenville. Game 1, 7 p.m. Thursday at Abilene Christian University. That series will shift on Saturday, 1 p.m. at Hardin-Simmons. Of course, Game 3, 30 minutes after Game 2 if it is needed. But it is an exciting matchup to have a couple of big country teams going toe-to-toe in the regional semis. So we are guaranteed to have a ball club playing for a trip to state again at the Class 4A level, just like we did last year.
Yeah, and I think this matchup is only bad in that we're going to lose one of them after this week. I think in every other regard, this is going to be a super fun matchup because Stephenville's a really good team playing well. They came from behind after losing Game 1 to beat Iowa Park last week. I got to see the Game 2 of that one where they forced the third game, which they eventually won to advance the series. So they're kind of a team as the defending region champion. I think a lot of people maybe have expected to be here. Snyder's kind of the opposite. Snyder's a team that was solid last year, and they've been solid all year long. But I think they're kind of that scrappy, overachieving team that some people are probably surprised to see playing in the region semifinals right now. And one of the reasons that they've been so good is they have been nails in close games. I think they're 6-1 now in 1-run games after beating El Paso Riverside in 8 innings to clinch their series. They won it in 2, but they had to win that last one in extra innings in another 1-run game. This Snyder team, you do not want to be in a tight game with them late. They are very, very good in games that are decided by 3 runs or less. I think it's 9-2 now, including 5-1 in 1-run games. If they're in a close game, even if they're down, they feel like they have a chance to win. And they're a really, really scrappy bunch. I got to do a feature with them and talk to Coach Shane Stewart about them last week, and I'm excited. I haven't got a chance to see Snyder in person yet, and with them coming to Abilene, I'm sure I'll be at probably all of those games. So that's going to be a super fun series. It's going to be really neat to see how that plays out because you've got 2 very good teams playing each other.
On the subject of fun series in Class 5A, I think you should be excited about this Wiley matchup with Aledo. And it's spread out over 3 days. Mm-hmm. It starts 6 p.m. Thursday at Weatherford College. Then it shifts to Abilene Christian on Friday. And if it's still going, if they need a Game 3, it'll shift to Iowa Park on Saturday at 5 p.m. But this should be a great matchup. Wiley's playing well, and we know Aledo's solid.
Yeah, this should be a really fun series. These are 2 teams with a little bit of familiarity. Aledo knocked out Wiley last year, so there's some experience there of playing each other in important playoff games. So I think this is going to be another one where you've got two really good teams playing a 3-game or best of 3 series, and it's going to be the better team advances. But I think the Wiley's got to feel good about the way they're playing coming in. They've played really, really well in the playoffs to start. They swept a scrappy Del Valle team last week in a series where they allowed 1 run over the 2 games, and had a big offensive day in game 2. So they're playing really well in basically all phases. This Alito team is super talented with a lot of players that have been in these situations before. So this is gonna be a great series. And we get game 2 out here in Abilene as well. They're playing one of those series where you've got 3 games and 3 sites, which is always kind of interesting, but it'll be fun to get to see them on that Friday game and kind of see what they can do. But I like the way Wiley's playing. But this Leo team's tough. Once you get to the region semifinals in any classification, you're going to have a tough go. But in 5A, that's particularly true. So this should be a fun series. This is a Wiley team that has big aspirations, and they'd love to be playing for the region championship next week.
All right, and with that, it's just about time to bring on Coach Scotty Nichols of Anson, who Dan I think is I don't know, he's kind of flown under the radar. I think this guy's done really a fine job, and when people start talking about the top coaches, baseball coaches in the big country, I think you should hear his name more often than you do. I think that Anson, he's built a great program there. They just have a look. If you watch this Anson team, certain baseball teams that are well coached, they just look like baseball teams. You know what I mean? They do everything, the little things right. And Anson is one of those ball clubs. You can just tell that they're well coached.
Yeah, no question. And this is one of those teams where it's kind of one of those perfect storm seasons where a lot of times to get to state or to win a state championship, a lot of times you need to kind of hit everything right at the right time, where you've got a good experienced team, a talented team. This is kind of the case for Anson. I think Anson, if they're going to do it, this is the year to do it. This is a team that has 7 seniors out of 11 players, kids with a lot of, all of those kids played on a team that was 1 win away from state last year and ended up losing to the eventual state championship and the eventual state champion in 3 games. So this is a team that might have been able to win a state championship last year if they'd have been able to get past New Deal. So this is a team with that experience, with that motivation, and with just a ton of talent and ton of experienced talent, that I think that this is the year for Anson to make the type of run. And honestly, you talk about the job that Scotty Nichols has done, and he's built one of the premier small school programs in the area. Really, the only thing missing from that resume right now is that trip to state. And I think this year, that's their goal. That's the possibility. That's their potential. And it's going to be fun to see if they can do it. But they've got some tough teams ahead of them, and it's gonna be fun talking to him about this. I know he knows how tough the road is ahead. You got a really good new home team this week, and you could potentially have a matchup with an area rival in Albany for a region championship, which would be pretty cool. So I agree completely. The guy's done a great job. It's gonna be really fun to talk to him, and it looks like he's just about ready to join us. So let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now via Zoom, Anson baseball coach Scotty Nichols. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, you guys have been just absolutely dominant this year. Tell us about your ball club and the biggest keys to your success this season.
Well, we got a really special group this year. We have, 11 total on the varsity team, 7 seniors, and all 7 start. And so in some form or fashion, they do, with 2 juniors, a sophomore, and a freshman. The chemistry is unbelievable. That's what makes this group so special, is the chemistry. These guys are best friends. The older kids, the seniors have been playing since, they were little bitty, and man, they have great chemistry. They have great friendships. They have a camaraderie that's hard to match in any level of sports. And I'm truly blessed to be able to coach this team.
And Coach Evan kind of talked about how dominant y'all been this year. Y'all won a lot of lopsided games, but y'all were tested last week in a 1-gamer against Hamilton. Just first, how cool is it to see your team tested and answer the way they did, and how valuable will that be going forward as y'all try to continue y'all's playoff run?
It'll be that Hamilton matchup was very, very important for us. We knew it was going to be tough. Unfortunately, we lost the flip. We knew Coach Timmons over there does an excellent job, and the Weaver kid pitching was going to keep us at bay. We talked about it all week about, having the right approach and keeping our head in the game, and no matter the ups and downs, we knew it was going to be a battle to the very end. And, we talked as a coaching staff. Coach Reynolds, my assistant, we talked to these guys about, sooner or later, we're going to have to play in 1 game, hopefully, if we get to that opportunity. And so we used that as a little incentive to say, let's get ready. Let's see where we're at. And we've been fortunate. We were very fortunate this Thursday to get that victory. Could have went either way. But yeah, we've been fortunate enough this year to win some games lopsidedly, and we've been in some tested games. We started out in some tournaments. We played in the Brownwood tournament. That's where we tied Sweetwater. Of course, it was really, really cold, and that game, and we ended up tying those guys 5-5, and then we move on to our tournament here, and we play a hard, really tough early team. We play a tough. Trying to think of all the teams we play. We take another Merkel team that was well coached and played hard, and then we go to Windthorst, and of course we play always good tough competition up there, and that's where we got our only loss with Munster. But in that Munster game, they threw they had a really good left-handed pitcher, and we threw a little deeper in our depth chart, and didn't want to see anything, show anything, and where our pitch count was at, and other guys, and we battled hard, but came out short on that one. But these guys have truly stepped up all year, and it's a different mindset. I'm telling you, with these guys, because sometimes you have teams where you worry about if they're prepared, if they're ready to go, if they're into the ball game. But these guys are ready to go all the time. For example, yesterday, getting practice started, we have a little early release of school or whatever, and time I get out there, they're already started, and they already started themselves up. So and got it going. So they're a really special group.
Coach, tell us about your assessment of this new home team and the series you got coming up, and what are the keys to getting through this round?
Well, I can tell you, new home is Brady Webb does a great job up there. New home is going to be very tough. They remind me, after watching them a few times, they remind me of a lot of ourselves. I told our kids, if we take our uniforms off and put it on them, and they put their uniforms on, our uniforms on, same way around, it'll look just like the same group. They've got a lot of well-coached kids. They hit the ball extremely well. They pitch well, and they don't make the games I saw. They're pretty steady on defense. So, I've preached to the guys all week, getting prepared. This is going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be two really good teams going at it, and we'll see what happens at the end.
And Coach, one thing about your team is you do have, it's particularly for the Class 2A level, just unbelievable pitching depth. You got a minimum of 4 guys you could throw out in any playoff game and feel really confident in terms of starting, which is a huge blessing. Just how nice is that as a coach to have that many arms rather, to where you can kind of mix and match and get through games when you need to.
Oh, it's very, very important. Such a blessing. Especially at our level. We talk all the time, Coach Reynolds and I, about going into a series or going into a game, just like, for instance, the Hamilton series. Like, if we get it, we're tied up, or we get it in extra innings, we feel really confident because we got a lot of guys that can throw. So we're going to rely on that. We're going to rely on our pitching and our defense as to get us to this series, through this series, and just hang our hat on defense and then see what we can do offensively.
Coach, one of the things that's always struck me about your ball club is the patience at the plate, discipline at the plate. It seems to me that's something you really stress out there.
Yes, sir. We really try to make an adjustment on that this year and really push for it. I think some last year we kind of got into a bind, maybe in a New Deal series a little bit, of chasing some pitches we shouldn't have. Got a little tense, I would call it, or whatever, a little apprehensive. But anyway, we really worked this year to know what our pitch is, taking the pitches, making that pitcher work, and seeing where that leads us. And that helped us just against Hamilton too. When the Weaver kid got high on his pitch count, we knew we had a shot there. But yes, being patient at the plate, taking walks, doing whatever it takes to get on the base. That's our key.
And Coach, you mentioned this, but just a big and really influential senior class. Just, how important have those guys been? A lot of experience in that group.
Oh, I hang my hat with these seniors. There's not a day goes by that I'm not thankful for those guys. They are leaders of this team, and they're out there. They're there on time. There's no problem with how they act. They've got great grades. All of them were academic, all state, an opportunity for it. And man, they are the backbone of the team. The younger guys look up to them, the 4 younger guys, and know what's at stake. They know what it's about. They know what their goal is, and they go out every day to try to accomplish that.
Coach, I was on hand for that regional loss last year. Could you tell us about how much motivation you gleaned from that? I don't think people realize just how close you came to getting through that and getting to state. It was close.
Yes, sir. It was very close. At first, I believe the first game, we were up 3-1 at one point, and then 3-3, and then we gave up a hit that kind of bounced over third base and made it 5-3. And we're right in that. We have guys on base. We just can't get a timely hit. Anyway, and win the second one, and then the third one got away from us. Our pitching got away from us anyway. When you go to a regional final and walk 11 guys, you're not going to get away with it.
Even
Anyway.
that game was close until like the fourth or fifth inning, though.
That's correct. It was a couple runs, in the fourth inning, then we kind of lost control there at the fourth and fifth, or in the fifth, and then we got out of hand. But these guys are, it burned them a little bit. It bothered them. They worked really hard to get back to this point. They got a lot, like I said, on their plate that they want to prove, and we were close. We were close, but we know if we're going to get close as we were last year, we got a really tough opponent this week.
Coach, you touched on this as well on that non-district slate, playing some tough tournaments with some bigger schools. Just what was the value of that level of competition for the kind of where y'all are now?
Oh, it made us grow by leaps and bounds. We knew in these tournaments, I believe we played in the Anson, in our own tournament, we played 4 Class 3A teams that could beat us. And we knew we had to play from the get-go, and we were fortunate enough to come out on top of those. But to make our guys, to sit there and see how hard they had to work, to sit there and see the competition they had to build through and go through, all the competitiveness, it was amazing. And, I would not trade anything for those games early in the year. Yeah, like I said, if you'd have told me a long time ago we'd be sitting where we are this year, I would have said you're probably not right. So just because those competition teams we're going to play early in the season, which we want to play really good teams early in the year to get us ready to see the pitching that we're going to see in our district and then in the playoffs. So it was very crucial for us, and we're thankful for that opportunity.
Coach, am I wrong, or is Anson a baseball town? I always thought that town really enjoyed its baseball. I always thought that you guys got good support. Can you talk a little bit about that, unless I'm not right?
No, you're correct. It's been great. It's got a great support. We have everything going on. We have football and everything. Football's been successful. Jumps on board with baseball, and we have a lot of people that jump on board with baseball. Good community support, big crowds. That's key. A big turnout at the playoff games and the big district games, and we have a great following. I couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of that and try to get this thing to the next level.
Coach, I've been in the big country since 06, and Anson baseball has been one of the more consistent programs throughout the entire big country. You have a tradition of success there. How much pride do you take in that tradition out there?
We take a lot of pride in it. We take a lot of pride in being from Jones County and they're trying to be the best team in Jones County, because we know there's a lot of really good teams in Jones County, with our district play and district matchups. And, we're just trying to keep it going one game at a time, 1 year at a time, and just kind of meet those expectations. Everybody has expectations for us, and it's high. Going into this year, I told the guys, I said, man, you got a lot of lofty expectations on you. A lot of people saying this is it. This is the, state or bust, or, but we just got to really try to maintain our composure and just try to build on what we've built and just see where it takes us.
And last question, you kind of led us into this one as well, just with what this area has done in this region for a long time now. You talk about with Stanford and with Holly and now with Albany for an extended period of time as well. You look across y'all's bracket, Albany's still around too, out of y'all's district. That's kind of become a really nice, fun rivalry in baseball. Just what has it been like? How much fun is it in this area in Class 2A? There's a lot of really good teams in a very close proximity.
There's a whole lot of very good teams in our division. Albany, always competitive, always tough. Stanford, the same way, got a lot of tradition. Holly, the same way, with what they got going on over there. But you can't take in our district, you can't take a day off or you're going to slip up, get beat. And, that's huge for our success in the playoffs. And, we always try to preach, we got one game at a time. Don't look ahead. If you look ahead in our district, you're in trouble. And same thing in our region and playoffs. It's a tough road to hoe, and you can get through this region, you got a pretty good chance.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on you, and good luck the rest of the way, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that was Anson baseball coach Scotty Nichols. Going to be interesting to see if they can get to state. They definitely have the talent. They just got to, that's a tough road to hoe. This is a tough region to get out of. There's never any guarantees, but this is about as good an Anson team as we've seen probably in the last 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah, no, I think so. Definitely. They've got a tough series this week against New Home, a very, very good New Home team. But if there's a team equipped to win that type of series, I think this Anson team is. I think this is a team that is deep in pitching. Offensively, they're as sound and as patient as you're going to find it from a 2A team, too. I think take a lot of pitches, don't have very many bad at bats at all, and really just put constant pressure on their opponents. So I think this team, when you look at just from a complete package standpoint, pitching, defense, offense, up and down the lineup, they really check all the boxes. So it's going to be really, really fun to see if they can get through this series this week against New Home. And if they do, there's a chance we're going to get a rematch with the district and area rival Albany, which is still playing as well on the other side of the bracket against a good Clarendon team. So we could have an all big country region final if it shakes out that way, which would be pretty neat.
With that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. You can purchase a digital download for just $7. We also have some keepsakes and prints available as well. So make sure you check those out. As you scroll to the site, you'll notice pretty quickly we take a lot of photos from these games we're at, and we're at a whole lot of games. It's something we really enjoy doing, something we are very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.